What's this computer?
All right. Did you start?
Yeah, I started recording.
Okay, perfect. Hi, my name is Hannah Smolich, and this is the Started in Stanford podcast. I interview entrepreneurs in Stanford to learn more about what they do and why they do it. Today we have Demetrius Glover with us. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I can't complain.
Awesome. So, you are the founder of SolHaus. Can you explain a little bit about what you do?
Absolutely. So, yes, once again, my name is Demetrius Glover. At SolHaus, we host pop-up events which provide three components. We provided three components prior to the mayhem of COVID-19. Those three components would have been, or still are in effect, meditation, live music of some sort. So whether it be comedy, a live musician, live artist, sketch artist, graphic artist, and then a third component would be a healthy meal. Because of COVID-19, we've taken on a virtual realm. So we've put a line through the mill for right now, but we still offer virtual pop-up events every other week where you have meditation and comedians and also other performances just to keep people centered during this time.
So, I know a lot has been changing due to Corona. Obviously, you said you're doing virtual events instead of your regular locations in Stanford. But overall, how will your business really change the future of being involved in communities in this type of positive way?
Yeah, it's right now it's actually an opportunity of a lifetime, and with all due respect to anybody who has COVID or anybody who has a family member or has suffered themselves with COVID, but it's actually an opportunity in this industry in order to help people and really have more of an influence even at this point. We had a very local presence, very hyper local presence to where we had the East Coast territory, so like New York, we had Connecticut. Then down to the Midwest, we had SolHaus going on through in Indiana. But now we're able to actually take on, the goal was always to have a global feel for the brand. And so it actually does give us that one up and helping us to now build out and carve out a lane. So that way people in California are waiting for those live events just because they heard about us through this time period.
Yeah, that's great. So you're able to connect with people even in different states, I bet a lot easier because they could just hop right on and join.
Yeah, last night we actually had our second virtual pop-up, and it was pretty cool because we connected three coasts. So we had the meditation specialist she did a guided meditation. She's from Connecticut. We had the guitarist who was in Chicago, and then we had the comedian who was in LA. So we connected three coasts, and that, on a virtual scene, it just made it that much more powerful.
Wow, that's incredible. Do you find it easier to kind of get the best of the best people to run the events, or just is it easier to kind of fill up the schedule since you have more people?
I would say now that we gotten the ball rolling and able to put out content and having people around me who are able to help cultivate, different media elements and also having a website that looks presentable. Presentation was always my thing. It's always, if you go to a restaurant, you want to make sure that the food tastes good, but if it looks good, it's even better. And it gets you that much more anxious for what it's going to taste like. And so that's pretty much how I designed SolHaus, is to understand, okay, well, we have the elements. It's going to be a great show, but how do we make it look for the outside world? And how do we make it look for those people who, when they first enter those doors? And so just from a virtual standpoint, because we have all of our ducks in a row, media wise, it does make it a little bit more easier to show and prove what we've done so far and what it would be, how it would be an opportunity for people coming on board.
Yeah, that's great. Definitely. And it's definitely important in this time because I know a lot of people are struggling with the disconnect. So that's great. Question. So why did you first choose Stanford to start this business? I know it's changing right now, but originally.
Yeah, it was by happenstance, if you will. So basically, I was in Queens, New York, and I was working a full-time job, and I had just started doing my university tour. And so I just did a TEDx talk, and right after that, I went on the university tour, speaking to different universities about finding their purpose, figuring out their why, and it was going well. and at the same time, my lease was coming to an end about 6 months into this university tour. And so I was in Queens. And so at that point, I reached out to my landlord, and I told him, I said, you got to find two other roommates and bring them in order for me to go ahead and continue this lease here in Queens. And
Yep.
they dropped the ball completely. And so I had to figure out where to go at that point. And so I knew
Okay.
that I had come to a housewarming in Stanford probably about a year prior. And at that housewarming, I said, well, this is a nice area. So I called my buddy up who actually had the housewarming. I said, is there a month to month in that complex that I can do? And then I'll just come back down to New York after I do a month in Stanford. So I actually got to Stanford and met the right people at the right time. It was two people, so Nick Johnson and Marco. And at that point, it was just the right timing of everything. They started helping me build out those early elements that I had of. I actually started with the virtual realm, and
Okay.
they helped me to cultivate the vision and to kind of get aligned with how I can present this into a scene. And at that point, I said, well, no, this is fertile ground. Nobody else was doing it in Stanford, and so I said, let's do it here.
Yeah, you might as well take advantage of the business opportunity and just go for it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Was there anything difficult about starting in Stanford? Because, I mean, you have said there was no other business that you knew about at least that was currently building the community like you wanted to.
Yeah, I would say the difficulty was just getting the ball rolling with anything. The hardest part is getting started, and so um, I just kept the end in mind. I think that was the main thing that just helped me focus, is that I kept the end in mind, and something felt like it was carrying me. Without being too spiritual, I believe in a higher power, and so I felt like I was being carried, throughout that process, and it was rigorous because the first store that I went into was Scout Adventure. It's a shoe store, and the owner,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a lot of respect, admiration for this man to date. But the owner at the beginning kind of played me to the left. I kept saying, I said, well, we
Okay.
should have meditation here, build community. But those first few times, I think that I started with the wrong element in trying to position SolHaus as opposed to hearing what his problem was. And the second I realized, I said, well, any great salesman or anybody who's trying to get um, somebody to do something, you have to sit down and hear what their story is and what their problem is. So I sat down probably about my third time, and we just spoke. And well, he talked for about 2 hours, and in that 2 hours, he told me his problem. He said, we're not getting foot traffic. We have a lot of online sales, but we're not getting foot traffic. And at that point, I realized, I said, well, you have to add another component to it. You have to add community here for people to realize, well, I came here Thursday to come to SolHaus, but I came back Monday to buy my shoes here. And there's something
Yeah.
about that element that makes, people come back. And so just that was probably the hardest part getting started, is just to prove, uh, to listen first and foremost, and then prove what I could actually offer.
Awesome. That's great. I'm glad that you're, still able to continue building the community even now in this situation in a virtual manner, but also, it really seems like you're able to build other communities. It just gives you an opportunity to help, I think, more people and even bring a more diverse crowd in, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And this allows me to touch Indonesia, Africa. it allows me to touch Italy, anywhere in the world at this point. And so it's just
Yeah,
all about how we get the word out and set the fire ablaze.
that's great. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. We definitely appreciate it. So where can people find you?
Absolutely. So Facebook at the Soul House. That's at TheSolHaus. On Instagram, that's probably our number one channel right there. But it's at the Soul
Yep.
House. So that's again at TheSolHaus.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.